Oh, here we go. Ways and Means, still the room we're in, 2:15. Today is the 15th. And we are picking up H481, which has come back from the Senate on the calendar. It was postponed a day so that we could take a look at it. And there are a few sections that pertain to us that we already said farewell to when it left here the first time. But there's a new section on stormwater management, districts or something that I would love us to learn a little bit more about. I know it's just a study, but sometimes a study leads to other things that have revenue implications.
Well, the study was originally in 481, has passed the House, but it's been enhanced.
Yes.
Should I just walk through?
I think so, yeah.
So there's a side-by-side, this is microgrid.
I'm gonna turn off the machine behind you. I can't actually hear it.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Jameson.
This is
That is relieving. Go on.
Mike O'Grady with Legislative Council. I'm going to walk you through a side-by-side of H481 as passed by the House and the Senate proposal of amendment. I'll focus on both the differences and any revenue provisions or funding provisions in 481. So you'll see immediately that there is highlighted language in the Senate proposal. This is in the stormwater management statute. The Senate Natural Resources Committee heard that some of the people that are subject, the property owners subject to 3-acre stormwater permitting didn't actually receive notice that they were subject to the permit. And this is requiring the secretary to provide notice to all owners subject to that 3-acre permit. Moving down, this is tangentially revenue related. You likely know the municipalities have the ability to set special assessment fees or special assessment districts. Some of the municipal stormwater utilities and those that have municipal stormwater programs are looking for the ability to, when they assume full responsibility of the stormwater system, to assess special assessment fees to the users for any cost to upgrade or administer or operate the system.
So what's the difference between a special assessment fee, a municipal impact fee, and an impact fee?
Well, very good question, and I should have noted, this is my fault. Municipal impact fee is something that has a significant amount of litigation and court precedent related to it. And it has to be very closely related to the activity regulated, but it can go beyond your basic project, the project that you might be regulating. And an example is, say you live in Williston and Williston is building a whole new commercial subdevelopment, and the select board says, we will approve it if you buy an ambulance for the fire department. And that obviously doesn't relate to the actual construction of the development, but it relates to the further impact that development will have on the municipality and the services necessary for that municipality. That's an impact fee. The special assessment fee is related to a specific project that the municipality identifies, and then identifies those that are going to benefit from it, and then assesses fees based on that. So there are two different things. There's actually specific language in statute about both of them and how both of them work. And so I should have used the term special assessment fee instead of impact fee. The league asked that it be changed from impact fee to assessment.
Meaning the draft that left here, you should have used special assessment.
I should have used special assessment.
Okay. And so the change on the Senate side was not meant as a substantive change.
It's not a substantive change.
It's you correcting your terminology.
Right, it's a terminology change.
Okay.
Which has substantive
Yes.
effect, but Moving on from there, section 2, 3, 4, and 5 relate to the repeal of the sunset of the property transfer tax clean water surcharge. So most of these sections have not changed, except there is a new section. Where'd it go? Here it is. As part of the Clean Water Investment Report, which you receive annually, there is going to be, beginning January 2028 and every 4 years thereafter, a review of the sufficiency of the clean water surcharge to the property transfer tax, including an assessment of whether the revenue generated remains necessary to fulfill the state's clean water initiative and whether the surcharge should be continued, the amount adjusted or repealed. And so in Senate appropriations, there was discussion about just leaving the repeal of the sunset open-ended because there's no sunset on it after this bill. And they wanted a check back on it, something to remind you.
Stop moving around for a second.
Pardon?
Stop moving the screen around for a second.
Where do you want to
I
go
want you
back?
to go where you're talking about.
All right.
Thanks.
They want to check back on the assessment. So to remind you of the fact that there is no sunset and an assessment of its adequacy and necessity.
I noticed that I'm being very attentive to word choices today, and I'm sorry if it's pedantic, or I'm not sure if it's pedantic or substantive, so I'm asking you. It starts with a review of sufficiency, and which seems to me asking whether or not it's enough, and then moves to whether it's too much later. And I find that very confusing, but maybe it was purposeful.
Well, that was purposeful. They
Okay.
wanted to
I
know.
want to have all the ways.
Right. So Senator Norris specifically wanted the second sentence, and Senator Perchlik said he's more interested in whether it's sufficient.
Okay. So we want to find out if it's enough and if it's too much
Right.
at once. That seems absolutely reasonable. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on that section, folks?
No, except I hazard a guess that no matter what the amount is, it's not sufficient to address all the clean water needs that are expended.
That will likely depend on what year it is.
Right.
And maybe 20 years from now, maybe. But until then, probably not. So I skipped over to programs with funding implications. They were in the bill was passed the House, the Developed Lands Implementation Program, which is an A&R program that provides assistance to anyone subject to impervious surface permitting. And another, the Municipal Stormwater Implementation Program, which provides funding to municipalities for any of their water quality permit requirements, including under this bill when they assume responsibility for a stormwater subdivision. But what one senator wanted is that this money be available also to municipalities for design or engineering services necessary for the formation of a municipal stormwater utility. Before you form a utility, you have to actually do work to identify things like where your impervious surface is, what your impervious surface is, the boundaries. Sometimes there are unique landscape features. You also have to identify those properties that are currently exempt from the property tax because they will be required to pay. So it takes some time to design and engineer a utility. And at least one senator in the Senate as a whole, as it passed this, wants this money to be available for that type of activity. Should I move on? Section 7 relates to priorities for the Clean Water Fund recommendations to the governor and the General Assembly. You will see as proposed by the House and passed by both bodies is that there will be at least $1 million going into that municipal stormwater implementation program. I should step up. There will be a recommendation of at least $1 million going into that program annually. What the Senate did is that they are going to repeal that, sunset it in 2032. And it would just go back to being available for a recommended award from the Clean Water Fund, but there would not be the minimum $1 million as part of the recommendation. That's October of 2032 that it would revert to this language. The other did the investment report. There is a recommended appropriation. You had a recommended appropriation in where you want to pass a House of $5 million to the Municipal Stormwater Implementation Fund in fiscal year 2027. The Senate added that in addition to that, that there should be additional priority points when awarding financing under the Municipal Implementation Program and the Developed Plans Implementation Program when the applicants are residential housing uses primary residences. So this is about trying to give those 3-acre parcels that are used for primary residences some priority in financing. It's not the priority, it's not the first priority, it's just some additional priority points in A&R's priority assessment. Moving on from there, Section 9 directs A&R to create a stormwater management public resource guide to basically inform the public who are subject to operating permits, stormwater operating permits, with the information they need about complying and paying for permitting. It includes things like summarizing what the statutory requirements for stormwater permits are and why the permits are required, available practical cost-effective measures for how a person subject to permitting can address what we call parcel-based issues, recommended resources.
I think that's I think that's enough. On
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
We did the reversion to the language that doesn't require $1 million recommended annually to municipal. Then you come to the study committee on stormwater management and creation of regional stormwater utility districts. This was in H481 to pass the House. The Senate wanted to have the title be about stormwater management as well as the stormwater utility districts, but they don't really change the substance too much. They do change the membership. So they added a member of the Regional Planning Commission and a representative, not from a small town, not from a big town, kind of from a median town that's not subject to the MS4 permitting. That's basically how I've been describing it. There's a kind of a terminology change on page 17, and then
Wait, can you show me that consider part?
so it said including consideration of prior revenue raising, and now they wanted it to say including consider prior revenue raising.
That's why you skipped it. Thank you. Sorry.
One of the things that they added is in the charge to the utility is recommend whether and how a regional utility can improve the management of parcel-based issues in a more cost-effective and equitable manner, and how to deal with subdivisions that lack homeowners associations or address management of upstream properties that drain into stormwater systems subject to permitting. And also to recommend whether stormwater permitting for municipalities could be streamlined to improve the application process, permit renewal or fee requirements. Some of the associations related with municipalities, municipal water and stormwater management, they they don't like to have to do all the permits that they have to do. And they think that they can be streamlined, the application and the permit and the fee, and they're looking for this group to review that.
Who's that?
The Green Mountain Water Association, it's the people that run your wastewater treatment facilities and your public drinking water systems. They also have significant role in managing stormwater in their towns. So they're the people that are looking for that. Moving on from there is the effective date. Everything takes effect July 1, 2025, except built into the operation of some of these is, the Clean Water Fund Board, they won't make their recommendations until next fall. The awards of assistance from A&R won't happen until after the new fiscal year. So there's just the operable aspects of this is everything doesn't actually happen July 1, 2025.
Thanks. Any questions for Michael?
Yeah, what's the course of this bill?
Oh, this bill was started here. We voted it out of here, went to the Senate, they approved it, it came back, it's on the calendar. It got postponed one legislative day so that we could take testimony on it and make sure we felt okay about it. And I think it might, the Corrections Institutions Committee might spend a moment with it as well. And the Environment Committee finished its time with it. Is that right?
I reviewed the changes with them this morning and I don't know if they actually voted while I was there, but they planned to vote
Okay.
on it today.
Are you able to give us a preview of the fees language in the other bill that I don't remember the number of right now?
S-124.
Sure, yeah. In a moment after we hear from James. Okay, thank you. Hi.
James Duffy, Joint Fiscal Office. Chair Kornheiser, Chris let me know the committee was interested in hearing more about stormwater utility districts and perhaps the regional stormwater utility components of the bill.
I was, but after, I feel like I'm not really particularly anymore. Is anyone else very interested in that? Okay. If you want to just give us a quick run through of if there are any fiscal impacts for the changes that they made, that would be great.
So as passed by the Senate, there are no major changes to the fiscal note for H481. There are some tweaks to the language. So for example, an existing section of the fiscal note that describes new authorizations for grants and financial assistance that can be given out by certain A&R grant programs has been updated to reflect the fiscal that the as passed by Senate bill would allow A&R, a grant program at A&R, to provide financial assistance for planning related to establishing new municipal stormwater utility districts. As one example, I think the chief difference fiscally is that instead of repealing the clean water surcharge sunset indefinitely, there's now this check back requirement. The sunset remains repealed indefinitely, but there is now a 5-year check back required, beginning, I believe, in 2027 or 28 with that clean water investment report, and every 5 years thereafter to determine the adequacy and the necessity of that revenue source. But those are really the two most salient updates to the fiscal. The top line numbers have not changed.
Okay.
There were those two minor tweaks to what A&R grant programs can fund and that 5-year check.
Great, thank you. Okay, folks, a straw poll on this would be much appreciated. Does anyone need anything before we do that? Representative Burkhart needs something before we do that.
I think I was just write it down on there later, but
Oh,
that's
great.
okay.
Okay, this was 11-0 when it left here, and it seems like maybe it has not changed much. My general vibe based on the informed testimony from folks. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much, everyone.
902.
Did indeed look like 902. Okay, thank you. Michael. So folks, there's a bill in natural resources that we do not have custody of yet. We're not going to do a vote on it. We're not going to do a full walkthrough of the bill. But while Michael is here anyway, given how high demand you are right now, thought it'd be helpful for you to just take us through the key pieces of the bill. You don't.
Okay, I don't have it with me. I
Okay.
could probably find a version of it online if you want me to put it up.
Yes, that would be great if that feels okay to you.
First, I'm gonna need you.
Oh, okay.
It's probably. When we work with the as by Sunday. I think it's the first speed provision.
And Michael, the chair of natural resources told me she didn't think that this section was gonna change before they voted it out, but
Oh.
I also don't want to get like ahead of anything. So if you,
I don't think the fee is.
Okay.
Let's talk. Agricultural water quality. So the Federal Clean Water Act requires states to, delegated states been, who have been approved to run their own version of the Federal Clean Water Act. They've delegated that authority to states and they require states to permit certain discharges. Some of them you're well aware of, your wastewater treatment plant, your MS4 community, your industrial discharges. Those are all delegated programs. One that you might not be aware of is that there's something called a concentrated animal feeding operation permit that states are supposed to, or delegated states are supposed to regulate and permit discharges from what are called concentrated animal feeding operations. An animal feeding operation is a place where animals have been stabled, stored, fed, or kept in any 12-month period for 45 days or more, and that area has been effectively denuded of vegetation. So that's an animal feeding operation. Then if you have a discharge from an animal feeding operation, meaning that you literally have runoff coming out of your production area, out of that EFO, that's a discharge. Also, if you're a large AFO, large CAFO, and you're land applying manure, but you're not doing it in conformance with the nutrient management plan, then that is a discharge. So 2004 EPA's rule for CAFOs came out. It required delegated states to set up this program to permit CAFOs. But there was a little kind of magic seed in the preamble to that rule that said EPA recommends that states establish programs to prevent farms from having to get a CAFO permit. including establishing programs at agencies of agriculture to prevent discharges. And the Agency of Agriculture, our Agency of Agriculture, they grasped that statement and said, oh, we can set up our own program that avoids the CAFO permit as long as we prohibit discharges from all our farms. And that's what you did. You authorized the Agency of Agriculture to do that. You authorized them to have this program, and that's where you get the large farm, medium farm, small farm permit, where you get the ag water quality funds, where you get all of the ag water quality programs that are at the Agency of Agriculture, most. But in 2016 and then again in 2022, environmental advocates petitioned EPA to say the Agency of Agriculture and the Agency of Natural Resources are not properly implementing the Federal Clean Water Act and permitting discharges at CAFOs. 2016, EPA kind of said, yeah, you're right. ANR do some corrective action. Nothing really happened. 2022, EPA said, yeah, you're not doing it. You need to give us a corrective action plan now. If you don't give us a corrective action plan, you're subjecting the state to dedelegation. And dedelegation does not mean you lose just the CAFO program. You lose it all. You lose your stormwater programs, you lose your wastewater programs, you lose your funding under the feds for those programs. You lose it all. And so that scares people. As a result, ANR has given EPA a corrective action plan. Part of that corrective action plan is the need for legislation to clearly outline the responsibilities of ANR in meeting the federal CAFO permit program. That's what S-124 is intended to do. One of the things that S-124 does is it says it relates to the fees that the large farms and the medium farms pay currently to the Agency of Agriculture. If a large farm, which today pays $2,500 to the Agricultural Water Quality Special Fund annually, if they're required to get a large CAFO permit, they're going to pay that $2,500 to ANR, which is already a fee that you've already approved, that's in 3 VSA 2822. It's that nobody's ever been charged for it. So you are now saying if they need a large CAFO permit, gets paid to ANR, and you'll see that's the language behind me. And it they will not be required to pay the large farm fee. Because the large
Another thing.
Right. The large farm permit is not just a water quality, it's a land use. It's about whether a large farm should be sited where it's proposed, whether a medium farm should be expanded where it's proposed for expansion. It also has requirements for things that are not water quality related, like noise, dust, vectors, etc., traffic. So the large farm that needs the large CAFO permit is still going to need the large farm permit from Agency of Ag. Because the Agency of Ag wants to maintain that regulatory authority over noise, dust, land use, etc. But they're not going to be required to pay 2 fees. They'll have 2 permits, but only pay 1 fee. Now, the medium farms don't have that land use component as part of their medium farm permit. Their medium farm operation permit is a water quality permit. So if that medium farm is required to get a medium CAFO or just a CAFO permit, it's paying its fee, which is $1,500. Again, you've already approved this fee. This is already in the books for an MFO for a medium farm to get a CAFO permit. It's just never been assessed. So, but it will be $1,500 to the Ag Water Quality Special Fund. If they're required to get the medium CAFO, the CAFO permit, they don't need the MFO permit from the Agency of Ag. They won't be paying to the Agency of Ag's Ag Water Quality Special Fund. They will only have one permit. They only pay one permit fee. Again, it's to A&R if they have a discharge. It's the Agency of Ag if they don't have a discharge. And those are the fee requirements, unless I'm forgetting something. James, am I forgetting something? That's really it. The rest of this is basically language to appease EPA regarding the responsibilities of the two agencies in implementing water quality regulation over discharges from farms.
Representative Messer.
Yes. But if the $2,500 fee, whatever it was, had never been charged, it just was overlooked, or it just, no one sent an invoice, and they said, we don't need to do this, how did it occur that it never charged to pay it?
They never required a farm that was discharging to get a permit.
They never had a permit, so it wasn't just a fee that was sucked up.
Right, the $2,500 A&R fee is for a permit.
Okay, thank you. There's a reason.
But you will hear the agency say yes, well, more specifically, A&R say that yes, there are farms that are discharging.
You know, the vote of the committee.
They haven't voted yet.
They haven't voted it yet.
And we're not going to vote today. I just, in case we never find Michael again,
Right.
wanted to have him here.
Good.
He likes to go home.
Any other questions for Michael? Thank you very much. I saw someone peeking their head in, hoping you would come downstairs.
Yeah, if I
Thank you
can.
for your patience and being here. Thank you. James, you wanna, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Joint Fiscal Office. So Legislative Council just gave a really good overview of the various fees at play here and the universe of payers. I won't rehash that. I will just talk about impacts to the Ag Water Quality Special Fund. So currently, there are two classes of permits that we're discussing. Those large and medium farm operations permits, and this new class of permits, well, not new, but a bunch of permits that will be newly issued for the first time, those CAFO permits. Currently, those farm operations permits are deposited to the, let me get this right, Environmental Permit Special Fund. The CAFO permits would be deposited, farm operations permits are deposited to the Ag Water Quality Special Fund. CAFO permits, because they will be permits issued by A&R, will instead go to the Environmental Permit Special Fund. Both of these special funds are funds that support general permit compliance and enforcement work at those respective agencies, AAFM and ANR. This bill would not establish a new universe of payers. What it would do is shift some permit holders and thus their fee revenue from the Ag Water Quality Special Fund to the Environmental Permit Special Fund. So to the extent that you are a farm operator currently paying an MFO or an LFO permit, and you're now paying a CAFO permit, your fee amount won't change, but the ultimate destination in the state coffers will. So this will decrease the amount headed to the Ag Water Quality Special Fund, increase the amount headed to the Environmental Permit Special Fund. There's no expected top line change in the revenues received by the state. It's just the destination. I'll note that the Ag Water Quality Special Fund has been running routine deficits over the last several fiscal years that have required additional appropriations to top it up and help it meet its statutorily required uses that it supports. However, the amount of money we're talking about here is quite small compared to those deficits and those transfers. So The Ag Water Quality Special Fund received $240,000 from those farm operations permits in fiscal year 24. The transfer to the the transfer that was required to the Ag Water Quality Special Fund was 6.68 million in that year. So the deficit to the Ag Water Quality Special Fund was 6.7 million, give or take. We're talking about a pot of money that's around $240,000 a year. So this could slightly exacerbate those deficits in the Ag Water Quality Special Fund, but in a very small way relative to the overall deficits.
And how's the other fund doing?
The Environmental Permit Fund, I don't have the numbers for current balances in front of me, but I'm not aware of any structural deficits in the Environmental Permit Special Fund. I think that, to my knowledge, has been more or less supporting the functions that it was established for. It hasn't had any kind of one-time transfers to top it off in recent years that I'm aware of.
Do you know what the other reasons for the deficit in the first fund are?
Unfortunately, I don't. I don't
We were
know.
talking about fee schedules sometime this week. I don't remember when, and sort of flagging that A&R was like one of the most behind on the schedule, and it's something that we update on, but haven't had time.
Ag Water Quality Special Fund is AAFM.
Okay.
So they, I'm sure, could provide detail about kind of what's going on behind the scenes there and causing those deficits.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I don't have that information.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thanks for joining us. Again, so we're not voting on this, folks. We're waiting for the bill to actually come to us, but just wanted us to, if everyone could retain the information we just gathered for another few days, that would be much appreciated. I think we're done for the day. Great, we're done for the day. Thanks, everyone. So tomorrow morning, ideally, we are going to hear about S12 and then vote out S12 and still be on time for the floor and the pages ceremony. So if folks have a chance to read S12 now with this lovely time that you have this afternoon, that would be super great so that we're prepared.